There's been at least some good news in the COVID-19 pandemic with the approval of vaccines. But is the research community handling the COVID-19 pandemic the way that it should? COVID-19 has sort of become the center of everything. Uh, and in a crisis, that can be good. Amy Edmondson, in her book Teeming, really describes a story how in 2010 in Chile, there was a mining disaster where 30 miners were trapped, and a whole lot of different organizations and companies came together to really even develop new technology and to do something they didn't even think was possible, which was get those miners out of that mine. But with COVID 19, there's a problem. And that problem is not only is it the center of attention in a crisis, it also has the effect that it tends to disrupt our networks and our communities. In this article here, which hasn't been peer reviewed yet, but it is online, analyzes publication network metrics in coronavirus research. And what is shown here is a measure which is the weighted degree, which is the number of collaboration links a nation has. And you can see very clearly that prior to the pandemic, compared to after the pandemic or during the pandemic, there was a marked decrease in the number of collaboration links for most countries. China, they went up a slight bit. But what this means is that there's more and more silo mentality happening. People are working more in their silos, and the authors attribute this to the very fact and people are more concerned about the cost of coordination or what others may call collaboration tax. So instead of saying, oh, let's build this relationship, build this network, we need to work and focus and go to the teams we know best and small teams. But that is a certain mindset and a mentality that you have costs and a tax. It's sort of viewing all that effort as draining. It's reducing your resources. It's a barrier to get over. There's a different way of looking at it, a different perspective, different mindset, and it comes from actually an unexpected angle, or unexpected person for that matter, and it's Einstein. What you may not realize is that Einstein was attributed to this quote here, which is that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it. Which is an interesting aspect, because what it really is the essence of investment. That when you invest, you don't expect immediate returns. You can't have quick outcomes. It takes time and it builds. But what I've learned in all the different consortia I've worked in, which are really big, complicated collaborations, is that when you invest and you invest well in that and you deal with that collaboration tax or the coordination costs, the long-term effect is that you get, just like a compound interest or an investment, you get exponential growth in the achievement you can reach, which really, in the end, means the trajectory of such an exponential growth that you can achieve much more than even what you thought of when you started. And this is the risk we have with the current way we're approaching COVID-19 research. Just imagine, for example, if the Human Genome Project had that mentality, was focused on the collaboration costs or the coordination cost and the collaboration taxes, what I should say. You know, this is a quote from John Sulston, which you may not realize the Human Genome Project started with actually characterizing a nematode, C. elegans, but that's because they had a really good process for doing that. But the researchers that did this, John Sulston being one of them, were part of the team. And this is what he said. It was a big thing, and I'd always thought everyone should do it together, and that not everyone agreed with that. Well, imagine if those who didn't agree with that had won out. Now, at the time in the Human Genome Project, there was a lot of hype, and everyone thought it was sort of like that linear growth that, oh, we're going to characterize the human genome and we'll be able to solve diseases. But it wasn't like that at all. But if you think about it, for the past 10, 15 years, all of the major advances we've made have at least something related to the Human Genome Project, because it is an understanding of the genome that really has unlocked a whole lot of new innovation. And so you know, we need to make sure that in the COVID research we have the same mindset that people had in the Human Genome Project. This is why in the IMI-funded Dragon Project, which recently started and we're part of, we're really focusing on bringing AI-driven approaches to elevate health system response capacity. But one feature of this, which is down on the bottom of this graph, is that we're also really kind of focusing on building a stakeholder community. Because as this graph shows, there's different phases of the pandemic. And we get to this later phase, which hopefully in a few months will be there, it's really this exponential delivery that we need to have. And it's not to be pessimistic, but Anthony Fauci recently said we need to prepare for the next pandemic within 3 years or maybe 10 years. So that's not a long time scale. And this is why we need to shift out of that silo mentality if we're really going to be prepared for this. And this is why we're building a stakeholder community. If you're interested, we're just getting started. You can come to our website, /Dragon. Simple form sign in. We're going to get your feedback and build this community over time. But I really think it's that exponential delivery we really need to focus on.